Hello there. Today we are going to talk about different seekers and pathways to God. One important thing I keep reminding and must keep reminding every reader is that I will talk about different religions, different types of science and history, a lot more. And if you might not agree or might even feel strongly about it, in favor or against it, the view shared here, then it's okay. In any scenario, only thing I would say is while you read this, please think with an open mind, relax, take deep breaths, keep a clear mind without any filters from our mind, and please question it, but with curiosity and eagerness instead of proving something that we think we know, and that is the only truth. Be open to the world of possibilities, then only we can evolve. As said previously, I am not a preacher or a teacher. I am Shunya, which means zero, nothing, nobody. It can only add value to anything when it merges with others or your thoughts. Thank you. In last conversation, we talked about what is God and how it is eternal and boundless. We also discussed about how God is Brahman or energy. Like an atom, it is in everything and is everywhere. One of the old Indian sages, Adi Shankara, in his theory of Advaita Vedanta, spoke about it as following: Brahma Satyam Jagatamithya Jivo Brahmiva Na Para. This, translated into English, means God only is real, the world is unreal, the individual is none other than God. The individual in this context means us, Homo sapiens, the human beings, or every creation that we see all around us. In essence, like Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you, within us. Each and everyone has capability to attain God by remaining still. Here I'll share a quote from an enlightened being from India, Mumbai, called Maharaj Nisargadatta. The seeker is he who is in search of himself. The self is near and the way to it is easy. All you need to do is do nothing, stay open and quiet. That's all. Here are few words from Paramahansa Yogananda on seeking God. The pathways to God may differ, may evolve as we go on to the journey to the Seer. So today we are going to discuss types of seekers and their pathways to God, and integration of all within each other. In one of the However, the pathways to God may differ, evolve as we go to the journey to the Seer. So today we are going to discuss types of seekers and their pathways to God and integration of all within each other. In one of the last episodes, we talked about 3 stages of any religion. Today we are going to discuss about types of seekers, and pathways to God. Here are a few words from Paramahansa Yogananda on seeking God. The West has emphasized large temples of worship, but there are few in which the worshippers are shown how God may be found. In the East, the emphasis has been on the development of man of God realization, but they are in many cases inaccessible to spiritual seekers. Remaining in seclusion in remote and solitary abodes, spiritual centers in which people may commune with God and teachers who can show people how to do so are both necessary. How many one receives knowledge of God from a teacher who himself does not know God? Sri Paramahansa Yogananda's Guru impressed upon him the necessity of knowing the Heavenly Father before trying to tell others about Him. How grateful he felt to have receiving this training. He himself truly communed with the God. The Lord must first be perceived in one's own bodily temple. Even seeker should daily discipline his thoughts and place on the altar of his soul the wildflowers of his devotion. He who finds the God within will be able to feel His presence in every church, mosque or temple he enters. The above lines are from Paramahamsa Yogananda. The God could be seeker from someone who has experienced the God for themselves, who is speaking through their own experience. Otherwise, it's a blind leading a blind. This is the reason why I keep reiterating the message in this podcast that I am not a preacher or a teacher. I am not even entitled to teach. I don't want to add any disturbance to this already disturbed world. Hence, the only purpose of this medium is to plant seeds, curiosities, and give pathways to the enlightened being who has explained it better. Apologies for my voice today. I've got a bit of a flu. Swami Vivekanand described types of seeker as following. There are 4 general types of men: the rational, the emotional, the mystical, and the worker. For each of these, we must provide suitable forms of worship. There comes the rational man who says, I cannot for this form of worship. Give me philosophical, the rational that I can appreciate. So the rational man is the rational philosophical worship. Then comes the worker. He says, I care not for the worship of the philosopher. Give me work to do for my fellow men. So for him is provided work as the path of the worship. As for the mystical and the emotional, we have the respective modes of devotion. All these men have in religion the element of their faith. Vedanta, the compilation of Eastern philosophy, tells us that there are 5 main causes of suffering. The first one, not knowing who we are. The second, attachment, clinging to things that are impermanent and having expectations. Third, aversion, trying to avoid things that are not real. Fourth, identifying with the ego and creating a separate realities. And fifth, fear of death. Yoga, the union of body, mind, soul, and spirit, is rediscovering who we are and returning to a life of joy, bliss, freedom. Vedanta, recognizing that we have each our different personalities and preferences, offers us the four paths of yoga or set of spiritual practices to help us reach this goal. In life, we can act, we can think, we can feel, or we can do nothing. To act is karma yoga, to think is the jnana yoga, to feel or love is the bhakti yoga, and to do nothing completely is called the samadhi or the kriya yoga. The final step of raja yoga and goal of all the yoga is the goal of all the yoga. So the four pathways are bhakti, karma, kriya, jnana. Love, devotion, action, knowledge. First, we're gonna talk about Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion. This path appeals particularly to those of an emotional nature. Bhakti is the path of unconditional pure love, devotion, compassion, and surrender to the divine. Bhakti is to be loved, to be intoxicated with divine love. It is the unity of being in love with love itself. Vedanta says to put the emphasis where it belongs on the divine self within each other we encounter. Through prayer, worship, and ritual, we surrender ourselves to the divine, channeling and transmuting emotions into unconditional love or devotion, chanting or singing the praises, seeing everyone through pure love, or in a form of God, a love seeker, to remember and become one with the divine. Muhammad and Saint Francis of Assisi are examples of the pathway of devotion. Next is Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge. This appeals to intellect, thinking type of people. This involves attaining direct knowledge and union with the spirit. The goal is to know the Brahman, the God beyond attributes. The path of knowledge is the path of knowledge, wisdom, introspection, and contemplation. It requires tremendous strength of will and intellect. Seeker uses his mind to inquire into its own nature. We perceive the space inside and outside a glass as different, just as we see ourselves as separate from God. Jnana Yoga leads the devotee to experience his unity with God directly by breaking the glass, dissolving the veils of ignorance. Before practicing Jnana Yoga, the aspirant needs to have integrated the lesson of other yogic paths. For without selflessness and love of God, the strength of body and mind, the search of self-realization can become mere ideal and speculation. The Jnana Yogi asks the heart the following questions and listens to the answer without judgment or evaluation. Through self-inquiry, who am I? Through negation or neti neti, I am not this or that. Mindfulness, self-introspection, meditation, detachment. The Jnana Yogi stops worrying about what is being seen but ask, why am I seeing it? Buddha, Einstein, and Adi Shankara are examples of path of knowledge. Next is Karma Yoga, the yoga of action. This suits the person of action. It involves doing one's duty. Karma means action, and Karma Yoga is performing action without attachment to the outcome. It is the path of the selfless service. You cease to identify with the ego, and all action is seen as an offering to the divine. Karma Yoga is the path of action, service to others, mindfulness, and remembering the levels of our being while fulfilling our actions or karma in the world. Through this path, the heart is purified, so egoism, hatred, jealousy, selfishness, and similar negative qualities vanish, creating space for humanity, pure love, sympathy, tolerance, and compassion. Karma Yoga is doing the right thing, the process of achieving perfection in action. It means following one's dharma, the true purpose, and accepting whatever comes without expectation of payment, thanks, or any recognition. To achieve this, it is helpful to keep your mind focused by repeating a mantra while engaged in any activity. Important for this is the right attitude, motive, and duty. It's not what you do that counts, it is the attitude towards it that counts. It's not what you do that counts, but your real motive behind it. Your motive must be pure. Your duty should be towards the righteousness. You will incur or demerit if you shun your duty. Try to do whatever job you are doing well. Learn from everything without the expectations of the results. Secondly, let go of the results. The way to realize this truth is to constantly work towards work for work's sake and let go of the results, good or bad. It is the desire for action that binds the individual. It is the detachment from action that will dissolve the karmic seeds. Detachments from result also means detachment from the type of job itself. There is no job that is inferior or superior to a different job. Don't be attached to your job. Be ready to give up your job if necessary. See all as God or self. Do to others what you would like to be done to yourself. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Adopt, adjust, accommodate, bear insult, bear injury, unity in diversity. We are parts of the same body. Practice humility and action. Beware of the power, fame, name, praise, and censure. In summary, Karma Yoga is the path of the action, service to others, mindfulness, and remembering the levels of our being while fulfilling our actions or karma in the world, the outer world, as compared to Kriya Yoga or Raja Yoga, which is the opposite of Karma Yoga, as it's about our inner action, internal action through meditation. Examples of Karma Yogis are Krishna, Moses, and Confucius. Kriya Yoga, also known as Raja Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, 8 limbs of yoga, the royal union path to Samadhi, where one reaches the state of nothingness and singularity through intense practice of meditation. Royal path to attain God, good for the people with more intuitive feeling. Raja Yoga is the comprehensive method that emphasizes meditation while encompassing the whole of yoga, all parts of yoga. It directly deals with encountering and transcending through the mind. Examples of Kriya Yogis are Lao Tzu, Lahari Mahasaya, Maharaj Yukteswar Giri, Paramahansa Yogananda. It is often considered the strongest path of a seeker, and in one of the best books compiled by the great sage Patanjali Maharishi, in the Yoga Sutras, the 8 limbs are a progressive series of steps or discipline which purify the body and the mind, ultimately leading the yogi to enlightenment. He has unfolded clear symbol techniques on how to attain God. I would recommend everyone to just Google Yoga Sutras by Patanjali. Yoga means union and sutras are like formulas. So in the history of mankind, this great being has written down exact steps to follow in order to attain God. He breaks it down in 8 steps, which are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Yama means abstaining from harming others through wrongdoing, including non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, non-wasting our energy, abstaining from greed or hoarding. Niyama, principles for our own daily lives, including purity or cleanness, contaminant, discipline, study, devotion. Asana, which means posture. Pranayama, mastering the life forces, the breathing forces within us. Pratyahara, which is inner reflection, converting your focuses of your 5 senses from outwards to inwards. Dharana, focused concentration. Dhyana, meditation. Samadhi, the freedom, the liberation, the enlightenment, the God experience. In essence, Raja Yoga is a systematic process of molding our character into the life to the experience of enlightenment. It combines all the yogas together to become one with God. I am planning to do a 4-part series of the 4 chapters of Yoga Sutras by Maharishi Patanjali, describing the details around the techniques and ways to God from an ancient book written in Sanskrit more than 2500 years ago. So, in summary, the God Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, "Whatever path men travel is my path. No matter where they walk, it leads to me." In the same way, all these 4 paths eventually lead to the same result. We should look beyond the differences to realize the merits of all paths. We might have an inclination towards one, but we must learn to integrate all of them together. When we read the spiritual writings of many faiths, we find they have a similar ring to them, the same sense of awe and wonder, the same sense of experiencing something so overwhelming that it defines our ability to describe it in mere language. One of my personal observations on this topic is people who are bhakti yogi or are also karma yogi, as devotion and action goes hand in hand. On the other side, jnana yogi and kriya yogi, which intellect and introspection through meditation goes together, but this is just a personal opinion. Integration. It is popular these days for teachers or institutions to develop some approach to yoga that synthesizes or integrates this four path along with the aspects of Hatha Yoga. However, this could be misleading in that they were never really divided in the first place. It is not a matter of pasting together separate units, rather they are all a part of whole, which is called yoga. Virtually all people have predisposition towards one or the other and will naturally want to emphasize those practices. We can't abandon the others. While it is definitely true that we can have a inclining towards one or the another four parts of yoga. However, we cannot really avoid or abandon the others. Jnana Yoga. While Jnana Yoga deals with knowledge, wisdom, introspection and contemplation, everybody has a mind, and at some point we will need to examine it, wherein quiet reflection naturally would come. All people will experience emotions such as love, compassion and devotion at the points of journey. Hence, Bhakti Yoga, which is one of the four parts of the four pathways to God, will automatically happen. Karma Yoga, for example, nobody can live in a body and live the world without doing any action. Even a renunciate living in the Himalayan cave has to do some form of action, and thus some degree of Karma Yoga is also essential. Raja Yoga. Everybody will become still and quiet from sadhana or spiritual practices. They will naturally encounter and deal with attractions and aversions and will meditate, thus touching on Raja Yoga. So it's the union of these four yogas that will help us attain God. Each on its own will lack and will keep us away from oneness with God. Now I'm going to share a story from Sadhguru talking about the four yogis. So now the story from Sadhguru himself about the four yogis.
There are four ways to become meditative. So you can use the body to reach your ultimate nature. This is called Karma Yoga. If you use your intelligence to reach your ultimate nature, we call this Jnana Yoga. If you use your emotion to reach your ultimate nature, we call this Bhakti Yoga, yoga of emotion or devotion. If you use or transform your inner energies to reach your ultimate nature, we call this Kriya Yoga. On a certain day, these four yogis, all of them are taking a walk together. Usually they can never be together because they can never get along. Because people who follow the path of intelligence or intellect, they have great disdain for others. They think everybody else is a nutcase. Devotional people, they have pity for all the other people. They're missing everything. Karma yogis, these are people of action. They think everybody is weaving all kinds of philosophies to hide their laziness. Kriya yogis have absolute disdain for everybody. Because after all, the whole existence is energy. If you do not transform your energies, what? So these four people cannot get along. But today, all of them taking a walk together. Suddenly a thunderstorm broke loose, big rain and wind. They started running, looking for shelter. The man of devotion said, in this direction there's an ancient temple, let's go there. He knows the geography of temples, so they all ran there. Then they saw a temple where the walls had collapsed long ago, 4 columns and a roof. Underneath that, in the center, there was a deity, an image of God. They all ran into the temple. Then the storm became more and more severe. It started lashing from every direction. To avoid this, they hugged the deity. All four of them hugged the deity, not because they have fallen in love with God, just to escape the rain. And suddenly God appeared. In all their four minds, the same question, oh, why now? We did so much yoga, so much devotion, so much worship, you didn't come. Now we are just escaping the rain. Why have you come? God said, I have been waiting. At last you four idiots got together. So these four have to get together, then you become meditative.
So I hope you enjoyed that lovely story by Sadhguru. So next is, how do we choose a path? As I said, all the union of the four yogas important, but we will, as a human being, will have a natural inclination towards something. So along with the companion aspects of yoga, it is extremely useful to be mindful of which of the four parts of yoga is most alignment with your own predispositions. By identifying that path, it can be emphasized in life, and the others can be wisely, lovingly used to enhance the chosen path of yoga. Yoga enables man to perceive the truth in all the religions. The 10 commandments are preached in various words in every religion, but the two great commandments are those emphasized by Jesus. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Loving God with all my mind means withdrawing one's attention from the senses and giving it to God, giving Him one's whole concentration in meditation. Every seeker of God must learn to concentrate. A prayer that one utters while at the same thinking of the other things in the background of the mind is not a true prayer and unheeded by God. Yoga teaches that in order to find the Father, it is first necessary to seek Him with all of one's mind, with concentration that is one pointed towards the divine. In future talks, we will discuss Patanjali's techniques for union with God, current schools and the education system, finding the gurus, and much more on how we can progress in our journey to the Seer. Importance of enlightened beings is quite key. So it's quite important that we read the books and insights for ourselves and get the source books which is closer to the truth, and specially written by the enlightened beings themselves. The blind cannot lead the blind by Paramahansa Yogananda. The unity of spirit is demonstrated in great men, those with God realization. The blind cannot lead the blind. Only a master, one who knows God, may rightly teach others about Him. To regain one's divinity, one must have such a master or guru. He who faithfully follows a true guru becomes like him. For the guru helps to elevate the disciple to his own level of realization. When I found my Guru, Swami Sri Yukteswar Ji, I made up my mind to follow this example, to place God alone on the altar of my heart and share Him with the others. That's the end of the message. I would like to thank my family, Swami Vivekananda, Krishna, Vedvyasa, Christ, Prophet Muhammad, Buddha, Sadguru. And some of the excerpts in today's topic were also taken from Swami Shivananda, Deepak Chopra, Swami J, Raghavanand, All Faiths Unitarian Congregation. So thank you all for allowing me to share this knowledge. I would like to thank creators of this platform for creating such a great place for non-creators like me to get inspired. Most importantly, I would like to thank all the readers of the talk. Good night and good luck.